the reason why we give you an instruction page is you have to read it, right? Samhara, the most common mistake that you all do with exams is you don't read this. මේක කියවන්නේ නැහැ. ඊට පස්සේ දැන් ප්‍රශ්න හතරක් including the first question කියලා කියන්නේ ප්‍රශ්න හතරයි. ප්‍රශ්න පහක් නෙමෙයි. Right? And the other thing is don't try to write all the 6 questions. ප්‍රශ්න හයක් දෙන්නේ so that you all will have a choice, right? By doing 6 questions, what I do is, this is law, right? මම කරන්නේ අන්තිම ප්‍රශ්න දෙක we don't check. I mean, up to a certain point we do, but the thing is, you can do a better job with the things that you already know, right? So stick with the questions that you are comfortable with. Prashna hatarai. Even for my paper, it is going to be 4 questions. Harida, ඊට පස්සේ compulsory question එක ලියන්නේ නැතුව ඉන්න එපා because it's 40 marks. So even though you wrote 20 mark questions, අපි එක question එකක් බලන්නේ නැහැ because compulsory question is the compulsory question, right? So the first thing is you read your paper entirely before you start writing. දැන් A level කාලේ වගේ ඒ ටික කියන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් even for your paper, compulsory question will come from contract law, right? Which is very technical and which has lot of slides. But I saw that BLS did a very good job with their Kuppi session and their contract. I was there in the session. So I'm sure whatever the confusions you had with contract law, I hope you are done with it, right? මොකද කවුරුත් ප්‍රශ්න අහුවෙත් නැහැ වැඩි contract law වලට, right? So your compulsory question will be contract law. I will not be exact about the areas, but usually first question comes with elements of contract. First question එක අපි හදන්නේ elements වලින්. So if you are very thorough with elements of contract, you are good to go. Kevin ke question එක අපි class එකේ කරේ, the whole reason is, if you wrote Kevin's answer, you are basically writing an entire note on elements of contract. මම එදා tutorial එකේ හිටියේ නැහැ. I would have made you all write, the entire answer. මට එක්කෙනෙක්වත් answer ගෙව්වේ නැහැ ලියලා, right? So මේකේ Kevin ගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ class එකේ අපි discuss කරා, but I didn't give the second part of the question. Then මේ කෑල්ල අපි discuss කරා මේක, but not this. Right? So if there is a valid contract, identify and categorize the specific terms implemented in the contract. If there is a contract between Kevin and the hospital, what are the specific terms? Then ඔතන ළමයි specific terms කියලා අහුවාම how do you analyze these things? Specific terms මොන වගේ ඒවා වලින් දෙන්නේ? What is the specific term here? He will pay the amount for the service that he is getting. That is it. Right? But you have to explain it. ඒක explain කරන්න ඕනේ. ලකුණු 5ක් දෙන්නේ explain කරන එකට. Right? So what is a term? මොකද්ද term එකක් කියන්නේ කියලා? What is the term which is implemented here, which you can use in the contract? Simply that. Right? Then ඔගොල්ලෝ class එකේදීත් මගෙන් අහුවා people who were available in the physical class, not the online people. කොච්චර ලියන්න ඕනේද? That I cannot decide. Which is not a satisfactory answer for every student. මං campus යන කාලෙත් ඔහොම කිව්වම මටත් තරහ යනවා, right? But the thing is, the amount that you are writing doesn't matter if the content is there. Then ලකුණු සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ලකුණු 25ක එකකට we expect you to write theoretical understanding that you have, and you have to relate the theoretical understanding to the case study, right? Even for a 5 mark question, that has to be there, but in a summarized form. ඒක summarized version එකක් වෙන්නේ. Right? Then මෙතන term එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා, what are the possible terms? So date is a possible term, price is a possible term, service is a possible term. Right? So your understanding on contract should be written in this. Second question එකේ තියෙන තනිකර ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ contract එකක් ගැන තියෙන understanding එක. That's it. Right? When there are 2 questions on the same, let's say for the first question you have 2 sub questions, or subcategories දෙක clearly වෙන් කරලා ලියන්න ඕනේ. This is not the same answer. It is not a continuance of the same answer. දැන් මම මේ Kuppi session එකෙත් මේක කිව්වා. class එකේදීත් කිව්වා. Right? please, when there are two questions, subcategories of questions should be answered separately. එකම විදියට නෙමෙයි. Right? ඒ නිසා හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. වෙන් කරලා ලියන්න. Because when we are marking, you have to think about the lecturer's perspective as well. අපි හිතන papers 200ක් 300ක් වාඩි වෙලා mark කරද්දී, when it is divided into clear levels, it's very easy to mark. ඔක්කොම ටික එකට තියෙද්දී we feel very happy, right? ඒ නිසා please make sure that you divide your answers. Okay? ඊළඟට second question is entirely from business structures. For your batch, now you have to identify this. දැන් මේ බලන්න එක area එකකින් තමයි එක question එකක් අහලා තියෙන්නේ, right? Even for your paper, I'm not going to infuse two areas to one possible question. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ, right? එකම area එකකින් තමයි question එක අහන්නේ. දැන් මේ තියෙන්නේ contract, elements of contract. This is what? Business structures. මේක I'm not sure whether we discussed this in class. We might have, right? Business structures කරද්දී අපි කතා කරන්න ඇති. දැන් මේකේ බලන්න there are 5 subcategories, right? And it says 5 marks each. දැන් මේ subcategory එකක කතා කරන්නේ එක business structure එකක් ගැන, right? But to get that 5 marks, to make sure that you get 5 out of 5, business structure එක recognize කරන එක විතරක් මදි. What do you have to write? You have to talk about the business structure. What is that? Now let's say this Megha's question. What is the answer for Megha's question? We did this in class. මොකද්ද මේකේ answer එක? What is the answer? It's very simple. පළවෙනි එක simple. What is the answer? දැන් මේ class එකේ හොඳට උත්තර දෙන ළමයි ටික මගේ, right? Okay. So this is what? This is a company, right? So the moment it says they have shareholders and she owns a company, a business, and when the shareholders are connected, you instantly have to think, hari company ekak. But just by writing this is the company structure will not give you marks. Pahen ekak denna puluwan. Right? So you have to talk about what is a company structure. What are the pros and cons of a company structure? Right? The more you write, as in the more content that you have, more correct content that you have on company, you will get 5 out of 5. Can I specify the amount that you can write? No, not really. Right? හැම වෙලේම මතක තියාගන්න 5 mark question එකකට I don't expect you to write 10 pages. ඒක කියන්න ඕනේ. 5 mark එකට මම පිටු 10ක් ලියන්න කියනවා නෙමෙයි. But company, what is a company? What are the requirements of a company? Shareholders ලා ඉන්න ඕනේ, articles තියෙන්න ඕනේ. And why do you say that this is a company? The reason. Right? Okay, the second one, there are 4 friends who have an innovative idea of opening a business. Each of the friends intended to invest 25,000. The moment it says there are 4 friends who wants to do a business together, what is it? It's a partnership. Partnership එක කිව්ව ගමන් you have to write about partnerships. What is a partnership? Why do you say that this is a partnership? Right? The partnership එකක usually liabilities are shared by everyone. ඉතින් ඔය වගේව ටක් ගාලා මතක් වෙන්න ඕනේ. So just because you have slides nearby, you will not remember it. එකපාරක් හරි ඔක කියවන්න ඕනේ. And what I would suggest is, now for me as an individual, when I'm studying, having physical copies is better for me. මම ඉතින් පොඩක් වයසයිනේ ළමයි. ඒ නිසා මම කැමති physical copies වලට. So you have to find your comfortable method. දැන් මෙහෙම paper එක type කර කර ඉන්න ගමන් ඕගලන්ට ඕගලන්ගේ computer එකේ තියෙන slides refer කරන එක I don't know how practical is it. It is, right? So it depends on how efficient you are with technology. But for people who prefer physical notes, though it is very hard to get printouts, it's always better to have your copies physically, right? පුළුවන් නම් physical copies තියාගෙන or at least 2 laptops. එතකොට එකක slides ටික තියාගෙන ඔයගොල්ලන්ට type කරන්න පුළුවන්. This is very important, right? මොකද ගොඩක් අය සමහරවිට වාක්‍ය ඉවර වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Full stop එකක් නැහැ. බාගට type කර කර ඉද්දී you feel like okay that you have to upload your answer sheet and you have to stop, right? ඒ නිසා please have a separate set of notes. Okay? හරි. ඊළඟට Kanti's one, what is it? Kanti's one is a sole proprietorship, right? මේක ගොඩක් අය වැරද්දුවා. I mean, lot of 20.2, 20.3 people, they got this wrong. I don't know how they got it wrong because it's very straightforward, pretty straightforward, because she doesn't have anyone who's working under her, no shareholders. Just because she has 2 salons doesn't mean that it is a company. It's simply a sole proprietorship, right? Then මේ තුනටම, even for a sole proprietorship, it's better to write examples. Class එකෙත් මම කිව්වා, right? දැන් ගෙදර ළඟ කඩයක් කියන්නේ it's a sole proprietorship. People who do businesses alone, usually it is a sole proprietorship, right? Right. Vimal and Sunil are 2 lawyers who are passionate about humanitarian work and intended to support their community. මතකද අපි charity organizations ගැන කතා කරා? If they are working for the community, it is a charity organization. වචන වලින් තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ අල්ල ගන්න ඕනේ, right? Humanitarian work කියපු ගමන්, even if it is a company, if it is doing charity work, it is a charitable organization. It doesn't come under company. right? ඉතින් හිතන්න ඕනේ. වචනේ දැක ගමන් තේරෙන්න ඕනේ, this is this. right? මේ තියෙන්නේ අනිත් එක. So Vihan is an entrepreneur. He already has approached by 10 investors. He has sufficient capital. He intends to get Mr. Pabilis on board for expertise and skill he possesses for the director board. So for sole proprietorship, do you have a director board? You don't, right? So the moment he says it's a director board, what is it? It's a company structure. Now, the other question that people do is, other issue that people has with these type of question is, sometimes you have to write the same thing. Is it needed? Yes. Should you copy paste from your own answer? No. Don't do it. Don't copy paste from your own answer. Right? Company structure. You might not have to write so much for this, but do not copy paste from your first answer. Copying and pasting karanne epa. Ekatath enawane. It highlights. Right? Don't copy and paste. Okay? So business structure is the second one. Ogolange question paper එක මම තාම හැදුවේ නැහැ. Right? So I'm still thinking whether I should put a question on business structures, but usually we do. අපි කොහොමත් එකක් දානවා. Right? But let's see. හරි, ඊළඟට මෙන්න මේ question එක තමයි අනිත් ප්‍රශ්නේ. දැන් I told you, in order to understand the area, in order to see what this is about, since you all are first years, then may business law paper එකත් 20.2 20.3 අයගේ first year එකේ හම්බෙච්ච paper එක මේ තියෙන්නේ, right? ඒ නිසා we don't usually make the paper extra hard. We don't, right? We usually give certain hints, or we include certain hints within the question එකේම පොඩි hints දානවා. දැන් මෙතන clearly දාලා තියෙනවා, it is misrepresentation. So do you have to think beyond that? No. Your answer should be about misrepresentation. දැන් මේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට ළමයි කොහොමද උත්තර ලියන්නේ? Offer, acceptance, consideration. Is this about the elements of contract? No. හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න, අපි එක question එකක අහපු දේ තව question එකක repeat කරන්නේ නැහැ. This is very important, and you have my word for it, right? මම elements වලින් එක ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහුවොත් ආයෙ තව ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහන්නේ නැහැ වෙන section එකක. No. If you are done with elements, you are done with it. එතන මේකට elements ගැන ලියන්න ඕනද? No. But did people wrote about elements? They did, right? And the best part is I had to read it. එදම් ලකුණු දෙන්න මොන හරි තියෙන්න ඕනනේ. If you have written certain things where we can give at least 1 to 2 marks, we just do it. ඒකයි මම හැම වෙලෙම කියන්නේ ලියන්න කියලා. Right? මතක තියාගන්න, areas අපි repeat කරන්නේ නැහැ. So this question is about misrepresentation. If it is about misrepresentation, you need to write about misrepresentation, not about other things. Contract එකක් invalidate වෙන අනිත් විදි තියෙන්න පුළුවන් කියලා ඒ ඔක්කොම විදි ටික ලියලා අන්තිමට misrepresentation ලියනවා නෙමෙයි. Right? You are writing about misrepresentation. So we have 3 types of misrepresentation that you have to know. What are the 3 types? So innocent, we have negligent, and the fraudulent one. So here then misrepresentation කියපු ගමන් ළමයි, don't think about advertisements and them having a valid offer. No. We are asking you to simply talk about misrepresentation and whether you can relate this case into one type of misrepresentation. So obviously this would have been related to one area under misrepresentation. හරිද? ඉතින් ඔය මේ area එක අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් question එකේ දෙනවා. Stick to that. I'm telling you, stick to that. Right? දැන් මේක කියවුවාම what is this? So what the retailer has done is, cameras advertise karanawa, these are new cameras, but what happens is he's basically selling old cameras, and he's just doing the original packaging, that's it. So what is he doing? He's doing something fraudulent. You have to talk about fraudulent, what is misrepresentation, and then you have to talk about what is fraudulent misrepresentation. Misrepresentation, you have to mention that there are 3 types of misrepresentation. Then only you move to fraudulent misrepresentation. Why? This is a 25 mark question. So I can't be giving marks for a person who just wrote about misrepresentation. No, I want a proper overview of it. So you write about fraudulent misrepresentation. How does it become fraudulent? If the person who's selling the goods, if he had the knowledge about the defect, then of course it is a fraudulent misrepresentation, right? There are other things as well, right? Anityavat tiyena slide dekේ they did misrepresentation as well today, right? So එකක් මේ session එකේ හිටපු කට්ටියට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ, but for other people refer the slides, right? එතන misrepresentation ගැන ලියලා then you have to relate your case to that and then conclude your answer. So how do you conclude your answer? What are they asking? They're asking remedies. So what are the remedies? Can you claim damages? Is the contract void? What happens? Right? Etakota, can you use IRAC for this? You can use IRAC for this. Otana tawala me kahala tibba IRAC wala, how do you use the rule part? How do you write the rule part? Oy rule එක දැන් IRAC වල what are the 4 words for IRAC? Issue, rule, analysis and conclusion. Okay, issue එක question එකේ තියෙනවා. What is the issue here? They want to know whether this comes under misrepresentation and what are the possible remedies. Rule එක තමයි the area that you are referring to. මොකක්ද area එක? Area එකේ applicability හිතන්න එපා. Right? Applicability මේක වෙනවද නැද්ද කියන එක ඔයගලන්ට අදාළ නැහැ. ඒක analyze කරන area එක මොකක්ද කියලා තමයි අහන්නේ. Right? Just write about the area which is relevant. So area could be simply misrepresentation. එච්චරයි. Right? ඉතින් එතකොට එච්චර complicate කරගන්න එපා. දැන් අපි IRAC පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ contract law වල උත්තර ලියද්දීනේ. එතකොට අපි ඔයගලගෙන් එක element එකකට එක question එකක් හරි elements දෙකක් එකකට mix කරලා හරි අහනවා නම් just identify the 2 elements and in your rule write the 2 elements. That's it. Right? Rule ලියන එක එච්චර අමාරු නැහැ. Challenging part comes with the analysis. Analysis එකටයි ඔයගලන්ට ලොකු ලකුණක් හම්බෙන්නේ. Rule එකේ applicability, whether this rule applies to this question or not, is not relevant. You are just analyzing its applicability in the analysis part. Right? එතකොට ඔයා බලන්නේ simply මේ rule එක apply වෙනවද නැද්ද? ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. Okay? So think about it and find clues. When it comes to contract law, we always hide small things. So it's all about you being able to read the question in a proper way. දැන් TV එකක් දාගෙන phone එකත් ළඟ තියාගෙන යාළුවෝ මොනවද ලියන්නේත් බල බල උත්තර ලියන්න ගියොත් නම් අමාරුයි. Right? බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ කොහොමද ළමයි බුදුනේ? ඉස්සලා බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ බුදු වෙලා තමයි අනිත් අයට කියලා දුන්නේ. So you do the same strategy. Right? You do mind your paper and you write your answers first. Then make a misrepresentation කියලා ඔලුවට යන්නේ නැහැ unless you read it properly line by line. Right? ඒ නිසා තමන්ගේ paper එක ඉස්සෙල්ලා කරන්න. I'm not talking about other things. Right? මට එතනින් එහාට ඔයගොල්ලෝ කරනවා is none of my business. ඔයගොල්ලෝ හරියට paper එක ලියන එක තමයි my responsibility plus what I want to see. Okay? Right. ඊළඟට the 4th one is from what? The first part. Sources of law. Right? So using the salient features of Sri Lankan legal system and important source of law, discuss how Sri Lanka retains its sovereignty without letting the system fall into anarchy. The anarchy කියලා කියන්නේ you don't let one personality govern the entire country. You don't limit your power to one entity. එහෙම නෑනේ ලංකාවේ. Why? Because law is made from different sources. So different sources, they have not given power to one particular personality. Simply that. So you have to talk about the sources. And ලකුණු 25ක් නේ. What is a legal system? ඉදන් පටන් අරගෙන you specifically say that Sri Lankan legal system is a mixed legal system, mixed law system. and then you talk about the sources of law that we learned. It's very important to talk about sources of law with examples. You need to have examples, right? And then what most people did not do is relate the question to your answer. Okay, answer එක හැම වෙලෙම focus වෙන්න ඕනේ question එකත් එක්ක. Right? So you should have the ability to show that all of these sources have not given power to one particular personality. Sri Lankan law is not about giving power to one personality. It is about retaining the diversity. You try to retain the diversity. You try to make sure that whatever which has been continued so far, it is continued even in the future. Right? The එතකොට මේ ප්‍රශ්නට උත්තර ලියද්දී whatever we have given you in the slide is relevant, but you need to have some common sense as well. පොඩ්ඩක් common sense එන්නත් ඕනේ. I have to say this, don't try to be biased in your answer. Bias වෙන්න එපා answers වල. Right? Because all of us in the present moment, we have a lot of opinions about the political atmosphere of the country. But bias වෙන්නේ නැතුව උත්තර ලියන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ, especially when it is a question paper. Okay? Right. So මේක අහලා තියෙන sources of law වලින් බලන්න මේකත් it is from the same area. Right? ඕක පොඩ්ඩක් වෙනස් වෙනවා පස්වෙනි ප්‍රශ්නෙට යද්දී. They only had 5 questions. You all are very lucky, right? ඔයගලන්ට 6ක්. For me, I feel like having more questions is better. Right? දැන් මෙතන මේ පස්වෙනි ප්‍රශ්නේ. And most of the time, in every exam paper, last question might come with 2 different areas. Right? අන්තිම ප්‍රශ්නේ areas දෙකකින් එන්න පුළුවන්. Is it a good idea to write the final question? Yes. Because sometimes those 2 areas might be your most comforting areas. Even for me, when I'm teaching business law, I have the area that I like, which I'm not going to tell you, but I have the area that I like, that I'm more passionate about. Right? You have your own favorites. So people who like mathematical things, they usually like employment law. But people who like a bit of theory, they are comfortable with first question or contract law. Okay? Right. May question neka, this is about company law and the liability of a director. Directors lage, you have to remember, directors are agents of a company. Right? Now, lazy agent කෙනෙක්ගේ liability එකත් director කෙනෙක්ගේ liability එකේ there are similarities. මතකද අපි කතා කරා fiduciary duty ගැන. So fiduciary duty applies to directors as well. එතන මේ question එකේ මොකක්ද අහන්නේ? As a director, has she done her fiduciary duty? Has she worked according to the best interest of the company? ඔච්චරයි. Right? So director's duties. This question is from director's duties. Right? එතකොට ඒක director's duties කියලා ඔයගලන්ට වෙනම slide එකක් තියෙනවා. Plus for agency also we have spoken about fiduciary duty. එතකොට acting for the best interest of the company කියන එකේ you have to make sure that you don't have private gains. You take decisions where you know that company will get benefited and you act in good faith. ඔගේ කිසිම malicious intent එකක් නැහැ. වැරද්දක් කරන්න intent එකක් නැහැ. Right? So how do you answer these type of questions? You can't use IRAC for any other type of questions. It's restricted to contract law. IRAC පාවිච්චි කරන්න එපා වෙන ඒවට. Contract law වලට විතරයි. Right? I'm telling you. Only contract law.